He didn't like the over-amplification. Sometimes he would say Rakshasa Kirtan. If it was just too loud, too much banging, too much shouting. Prabhupada called him the Emperor of Kirtan, right? Prabhupada just smiled. He said, I have my own style.
Hare Krishna. I'm here with His Grace Srutakirti Prabhu, dear beloved disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu, can you kindly share with us some of the instructions that you heard Srila Prabhupada give on Kirtan?
Yes. One thing I see with, especially with instructions with Srila Prabhupada, I was with him for a long time. And Prabhupada had a tendency to three times. Prabhupada would say something 3 times. After that, things would just proceed. And we can see in our ISKCON society, Prabhupada leading Kirtan. We have so many hundreds opportunities to hear Prabhupada leading Kirtan, melodies, everything is there. And they'll say, well, we did this and we did this. But as what I see is eventually Prabhupada, there's no need to say anything. Because if it's not being followed, you make offenses. So I feel, since you're asking me, I feel Prabhupada tolerated a lot of the things that we did. But he showed us very nicely, and we all know the instructions are there. Kirtan, it's not a performance. It's literally to the names of the Lord, non-different from the Lord. So how we chant and asking for the Lord's mercy should always be there. That's the purpose of Kirtan. You know, when Madhavisa Maharaj, Prabhupada called him the Emperor of Kirtan, right? What did he say? How to attract more people. You know what was Prabhupada's response? He said, we're not trying to attract people. We're trying to attract Krishna. So everything, whether it's Kirtan, whatever service we have, always we're trying to attract Krishna's attention. So primarily, since Kirtan, this whole movement has been spread by really one process, book distribution and Kirtan. So to do that Kirtan, we really have to surrender to the process of just trying to please Krishna. You know, I was with Prabhupada for a long time, so not only Kirtans, but even his bhajans in his room. You know, everything Prabhupada asked us to do, he was doing. His whole schedule every day was very wonderful. The afternoon was his time. Despite running an entire worldwide society, he somehow or other, for a few hours in the afternoon, he would read his books, he would chant on japa beads, and sometimes he would sit down with the harmonium and he would just chant Vaishnava songs. And whenever I would hear that, I would always come in the room, offer obeisances, and then I knew he would always go, which meant get the cartels. And once at the manor, I said, Prabhupada, you're chanting. I said, it's not like anyone else. And Prabhupada just smiled. He said, I have my own style. But that style is also an instruction for us. So I think the more close we keep to Prabhupada's standard, books are being written about it. Jayadvaita Maharaj, I know he consulted me, consulted many others. Very clear what Kirtan should be like. He said, Lord Chaitanya, he said, Krishna himself, he said, and he felt it, that it was, all was needed was coal and cartels and chanting. When Prabhupada came to the West, same thing. He didn't try to see what can I do to attract these people. He simply chanted purely. So that's the most important aspect in chanting, whether we're chanting japa, doing our service, leading kirtan, is to really try to satisfy Krishna. And then everything else will come. He said, Krishna's in everyone's heart. If someone is sincere, they hear the chanting, they'll be attracted because they're being attracted by Krishna. Any other question?
And did you ever see Srila Prabhupada stop a kirtan procession?
Yes, a few times. I've seen him express his displeasure in kirtan. In Mayapur, you know, so much happened after the devotees started going to India, particularly Mayapur, West Bengal. And once Prabhupada called me in his room because they were chanting Nitai Gaur Haribol, Haribol. Prabhupada said they can chant Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. He said, I'll chant Hare Krishna, go back home, back to Godhead. So our method is to please our spiritual master, the founder Acharya, whatever our position is within ISKCON. Our success is by pleasing Srila Prabhupada. So he was always pleased hearing Hare Krishna. We know here in Vrindavan, which is interesting. Nowadays you don't hear so much anymore, but when we would go on morning walks with Prabhupada, always everyone, Radhe Radhe, whether the rickshaw wallahs, everyone chanting Radhe Radhe. Prabhupada had one response, Hare Krishna. So our society, we're the Hare Krishna society. So I think more than ever, the more we stick to that principle as Hare Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, we're in a very safe position. Because again, our desire is to satisfy Krishna, to attract Krishna. So how do we attract Krishna? By pleasing our spiritual master. By pleasing Srila Prabhupada, then Krishna is certainly pleased. If Prabhupada's pleased, spiritual master is pleased, then Krishna is satisfied.
What other occasions you saw Srila Prabhupada make a correction to devotees in the chanting?
He didn't like the over-amplification as well. He thought sometimes he would say Rakshasa Kirtan. If it was just too loud, too much banging, too much shouting, he would also express. See, that's again, he would express, but then he would just move on. We know even for Kirtan in the temple room, he said no harmonium. And they'll say, well, Prabhupada he was chanting, he was using harmonium. But that's what I see. He said, I can't keep saying the same thing over and over again. You're all adults. Like he said to us here in Vrindavan, shave your head every 2 weeks. He said, what can I say to you? You're all adults. But he would say, and then he would say, he had his own bhajan to carry on. And if you're always just picking, that also becomes difficult. So he also knew how to let things go. We see so many varieties of kirtan now. And Prabhupada's mood was also, not to become part of other groups that we just fit in. He didn't care about fitting in. Prabhupada, he was very much independent of everyone. And again, we can point to, in the beginning, well, he had this person come in, Allen Ginsberg, and that helped him get a foothold in the U.S. But I remember 1973 at Bhaktivedanta Manor, Allen Ginsberg came. Others were there, all his Prabhupada's disciples were there. Hansaduta was there, Bhagavan was there. And Prabhupada was talking to Allen Ginsberg. He had a little harmonium with him, little carry harmonium with him. And he said, can I chant? And Prabhupada, of course, said, yes, So he started playing, and he went, Om. So you can imagine all of us sitting by Prabhupada and we're looking at Srila Prabhupada and thinking, oh, what's he going to do? Om. And then finally he started chanting Hare Krishna. And after a few minutes, Prabhupada turned to Hansaduta. He said, now you can lead. So this was Prabhupada. I say sometimes, especially people like me, were seen as fanatics. But there were areas, Prabhupada was a fanatic. Here in Vrindavan, this was his home, this was his temple. To go visit places, very nice. But to be here at this temple and here was more important than going hither and thither, just for the sake of seeing things. Because we know everything's by hearing. So it's the most important thing, hearing, chanting and hearing.
Still good, Krishna. Go, Prabhu. You have any questions?
There are many youths who are very attracted to Kirtan nowadays, and they don't follow they don't like to follow any standard. They like to do what they like for their gratification.
Yes.
But how, as you're saying that we should do Kirtan to satisfy Srila Prabhupada,
Yes.
so can you throw some light on how can we do both? Because there is music which they are attracted to, but they are
Yes.
at least doing Kirtan.
At least they're doing kirtan. A good example is the road show. You're familiar with the road
Vishnu
show.
John Swami.
I was with the road show from the very beginning. It was started by Kirtanananda Swami. We had 4 buses. They were all painted in New Vrindavan. There was the kitchen bus, and there was the deity room, the temple room, and then a bus for the men and a bus for the women. And the road show was very, very simple. We did plays, Liquid Beauty, Bird in the Cage, just very simple things showing the basic philosophy, you're not this body. And then we would have kirtan, Mangalananda would chant, very simple. And then we had wonderful prasadam. Gradually it started to become more refined, more professional. Even Vishnu John Swami stepped in, Kirtanananda backed off, went back to New Vrindavan. The first day I was Prabhupada's servant, he saw the road show in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that would be in September 1972. And it was very different from when I was in the road show. We had dancing girls on the stage, different things were going on. Intermission came, Prabhupada got up and left. And then he wrote a letter to Sudama Swami. He said, this is not what we are. We're simple devotees, kirtan people. And he shut the road show down. He said, if you attract people by other means, he said, when they see all we do, our business is chanting Hare Krishna. He said, when they see all these other things are not part, he said, they'll go away. So our business is not to have watered down philosophy or watered down people who won't stay. We want serious people. Prabhupada always wanted serious. We know the letters are there, 1973, boil the milk. That's what boil the milk was. We have so many devotees now, we don't need to expand to just bring in people who aren't serious. Our business is serious. Just like Maharaj is serious. That's why he has the service he does. Here in Vrindavan, I've been here 4 years living here. I've been to one temple. I go there every day, Krishna Balaram Mandir. Because our business is service. So we come, we're attracted, like you say, hearing nice kirtan. But then what are you going to do? Not that you just go to a festival for 3-4 days and like that. And then you go back to your home and do the same thing all over again. No, Prabhupada wanted to train people for Brahminical society, to become Brahmins, to become Vaishnavas. So that's always our principle. So how we do, if we just make a show, of course you can edit anything you want. I saw Kirtan Mela, had 12 men. Out of 12, 11 of them had long hair and beards. You think this would please Srila Prabhupada? His whole thing was no hair. Right? He mentioned Lord Chaitanya. He said, you go back, you shave your head and you come back. They say, well, that was in the 70s, everyone was concerned about hippies. But no, this goes way back to Lord Chaitanya's time. Vaishnavas presents himself very clean cut. So these are the people Srila Prabhupada wanted. Yeah? People that could surrender to his idea. And again, this is what I see over time. Prabhupada he did everything he could. He trained us as much as he could. Now it was up to us to take those books, take the torch from Srila Prabhupada and preserve it. Not turn us into just some performance group, part of another 20 other people chanting. No, that was not Prabhupada. We're not part of any group. We're very different. So we have to maintain that purity. It's not about sense gratification. But ultimately, chanting Hare Krishna is going on. So that's a good thing. Right?
Good and very good.
There's good, very good, and best. We want the best because we want to show people the proper path in Krishna consciousness. Like there's so many things. There'll be books. It's already out. Jayadvaita Swami's book on Kirtan. So many things Srila Prabhupada said about kirtan. His elongated names. He didn't like any of it. We follow his example. Then you know what to do. You know, he said, nice simple melodies everyone can follow and chant. Not that we do something so complicated, everyone just sits there. Hearing and chanting responsively is what we want.
The chorus, the response is so important.
Yes, yeah. And if no response, then it means they're not hearing. So if they can't hear and follow, so you see Prabhupada from the beginning, and he never changed it. 10 years. You're not going to find the kirtan, Prabhupada changes his style. Because the important thing is to chant purely for Krishna's pleasure. And what is Krishna's pleasure? Well, we go to the pure devotee. So that's what we want to follow. Like I said, he told that boy, first learn to follow, then you can lead. Not independently make up your own style. And now it's very easy to get a following. Whether you be on TikTok or Instagram, everybody, they big following, so they think, oh, I'm successful. But what kind of success? What success do we want, ultimately? That's what's important. Yeah. Anything else?
We want the success of pleasing the spiritual master.
Yes, that's our success. Otherwise, it's not a success. And chanting the holy name will fulfill your desires. So we have to be very cautious. We know from Chaitanya Charitamrita that the creeper growing, you got to be very careful. You know, these gardeners, they pay gardeners. So many gardeners, they sit here, pull out weeds. Why do you think you don't see anything but lawn? It's not natural. It requires a lot of effort. So same thing with us. We got to be very careful to pull out those weeds, which spring up automatically. Automatically they spring up. And they're all here, our desire seeds.
So how to pull them?
How to pull them? Well, you have to get qualified gardeners to show you, to distinguish between the weeds and the nice, lush lawn that you hope to grow, and your creeper that's going to grow. So we follow the acharyas, we take advice from God brothers, even under, over, doesn't matter. Whoever can give us the pure truth, that we want to take that example and try to implement it.
Jai Ho, Jai Ho.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Srutakirti Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj,
All
for your
glories to Srila
patience.
Prabhupada.